Hello, 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 and welcome to Are You Being Loved Up By You? Now, I don't know why I'm laughing. It's one of those days. What can I tell you? It's almost Christmas. Can we believe it's almost Christmas? What is going on? I mean, it was January, and then it was March, and then it was COVID, and now it's Christmas. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? But it is what it is. But on a serious note, I wanted to start the show off by just talking a little bit about something that's really, really, really important to me. And that is that today is my brother's birthday. He passed unexpectedly and unfortunately 4 years ago, but I wanted to let him know I'm thinking of you and I'm loving you tonight. And I also wanted to make a dedication to a good friend of mine and of many people that may be listening to the show tonight, the untimely and tragic passing of Paul Lawrence on Friday. It kind of blew us all away, and we're all still riveting in shock. But, you know, Paul, if you can hear us, we love you and we miss you. So moving on to tonight, like I said, I can't believe where the time's gone. We've had, today's our 10th show, and we had 10 episodes for series 1. So my producer keeps telling me to get it right. So I got it right tonight. So this is the last episode for series 1. Series 2 is coming up in January, and it's going to be hot. It's going to be about relationships. But anyway, without further ado, I wanted to bring on board my guest for tonight, a wonderful, wonderful man that I met, but I won't tell you how because he'll tell you. And it was like love at first sight. It was like a hand and a glove. It was like, I don't know, 2 peas in a pod. I don't know what to say. But when I get my radio show, I want him to be the co-host because he is fabulous. He's intriguing. I'll just let you decide for yourselves. So without further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage, I'm calling it the stage tonight, Ade Anifowose. Hello, Ade. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Hello, Ade.
Hello, how are you?
It's going to be one of those evenings. What can I tell you? What can I tell you?
Yes, indeed.
How are you?
I'm here. I'm centered. It's been quite busy since about, 3 o'clock. It's been back to back, but I'm present now. And I'm in one of my favorite spaces. When I'm here, nothing else matters.
Right. That's right. And I'll tell you more about what Ade does in a minute, but welcome. Let's just take a breath as we do.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, all of you who are watching, I suggest you take a breath too, because you got to get ready for the ride tonight. It's going to be fun. It's going to be real. But before we get to the juicy stuff, because you know I like to leave the juicy stuff till a little bit later.
Oh, okay, cool.
I wanted to just say, Ade, can you tell the audience, where have you lived and where do you live now? So where have you lived and where do you live now?
So I guess if you call being in the womb a place where I lived, I started my life off in Germany. So I was conceived in Germany, born in UK. 4 years later, my parents moved to Nigeria. And then I moved back here when I was almost 18, eventually moved to America. And then came back to United Kingdom. So I'm here now. That's the best way for me to say without giving a long story. So if you have any questions in between that, I'm happy to tell you. But you know, I'm a big body storyteller.
Well, you know what? I would call you an international man. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, man.
I like to describe myself actually as a global citizen. It has its ups and downs because maybe we'll get into that later. I don't know, but I do like being a global citizen.
So please tell the audience how we connected. And I do that, folks, because we have a story. So this is a great one. I love when you tell it because I don't think I tell it as well. Let's do it that way.
Okay, so I'm going to try to do it short. Usually, I'm not the type to reach out to somebody that I don't really know. I don't like cold calls. I get nervous. I make up stories in my head. I'm like, oh, and I don't want to say, hey, somebody give me a number. So anyway, I texted you. There are other people who said, "Oh, you got to meet this lady. She used to live in America. She's just like you. She's a life coach. You're gonna love her." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. She's American, and she's a black woman." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I reached out. They gave me somehow I got the number. I reached out to Michelle, and she told me the day that I was asked if she was available. She said she wasn't available, and I was like, "Okay, cool." So I gave her another day. She said, "Well, no, I'm not available that day. I'm going on vacation." And I think it was on the next week. So I said, this is all through text. So how about Friday at 6 p.m. or something like that? It was Friday evening. And she replied back, "I'm not available. I'm going on a vacation." And I'm like, you just said you're going on vacation the next day. And it felt cold to me. Like, I already made an effort to reach out to connect because I can just not try. So when I got that email, I said, "You know what? Bump you." I said, "Forget it." Because basically it's like you got one chance. And what's all this? Because I felt like at that time I was like, why is she being cold and saying, "Well, I'm not available this day, or I can't do that day, or I can do this day"? And I gave you the time on the day. You said I can't do that. I'm like, okay, I give up. Somehow, I don't know if you reached out to me. I think you did after you came back from your vacation from Cuba or wherever you went, which rained all the way through. That was your punishment.
Oh, that was Spain. I won't forget. Spain. Ever.
And then she came begging. "Hey, how you doing?" I'm back. No, she didn't come begging. She just reached out. And I can, I could put up a front. But I said, okay, cool, I'm open. So I sent her a text. We created a time. We confirmed the time to meet to talk. And we did. I think it was on a weekend. We talked on Skype. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll talk for like 15 minutes. We were on the phone for over an hour. Sharing experiences. And a part of me was like, I was not even trying to be talking to her or connect with her and find out what she does, but I'm glad I did.
You're trying to cut me off.
Yeah. Well, you cut yourself off because I reached out and you kept saying not available. Oh, I'm busy. I'm like, you know what?
I'm a woman of many talents and I'm very busy. So, you made the list. You're right.
Oh, really? Okay. You have a lot of female listeners, so I'm going to watch what I say.
Yeah. Speaking of female listeners, we've had quite a few comments, so let me just bring them on board. Hi, everyone that's watching tonight. With Valerie saying hi, Michelle and Ade. And she's sending love. Hagel says good evening. Claudia says good evening, Michelle, and hi, Ade. Valerie says good to see you, Ade. Someone says great stuff. We didn't get the name there. Eva said, "Hi guys, hi global citizen," and guys, Eva said, "Wow, you're really connected." So guys, that's the story of how we first met. But what I really wanted to do is talk a little about what Ade. I don't even want to say Ade, but Ade has so many talents and so many gifts, and is doing so many wonderful things. So Ade is a spiritual healer, a life coach, a podcaster. I mean, the list kind of goes on. I don't want to brag on your behalf, but he's a man of many talents. So Ade, tell me a little bit about how one becomes a spiritual healer. How did that happen?
The very short version is, this is what I came on this planet to do. I've no doubt in my mind. But I didn't know that until many years later. I've always been different. I've always felt like I was different, the way I looked at the world. And I think it was around 92, 93, I really felt like I could have been doing a lot more. And I was asking questions, and I kept saying at that time, I was saying, God, I know I can do more than this. And at that time, I was working for London Transport, Stockwell Garage, driving the double-decker buses, which I loved. I loved driving. I loved driving those big buses, encountering people with attitude and people who are pleasant. And I even enjoyed making some of them pissed. But, I have that side because, people just have this thing about bus drivers and they want to blame you for everything that happened from their childhood to their relationship, for not liking the job and you coming on time or coming too late. but that was cool because I love people. But around that time, I think it was 2 years into driving the buses, working for London Transport, I just felt like there's something more. I felt like my life was calling me to move to the next level. I didn't know what that was. Anyway, I ended up in America. And when I went, it was at a time where I couldn't have said then that I was seeking a spiritual path. I just knew there was something calling me forward, and I was responding to it. Through that process, I attended a spiritual center in Atlanta, Georgia, Hillside International Truth Center. The first time I was there, someone told me about it. And he said, well, you should try my church. That's what he said. He said, try my church. And I was like, okay, cool. Because there was the call that I was feeling inside of me. And he said, well, the only thing I need to say is, it's a female pastor, so you may not like it. Well, he was like kind of warning me. Yeah. And I'm like, what does that mean? It didn't mean nothing to me. Later on, I understand, because in America, you know, being a Christian is a big deal. And then in the Bible, when Paul was having amnesia, that if it wasn't for his mother, he won't be alive to say woman cannot be on the pulpit. So in the scripture, Paul talks about a woman is not supposed to be on the pulpit. So anyway, people took that and ran with it. But I didn't grow up with that kind of belief, that doctrine, if you will. When I went, it was like, I heard things that I've thought of, conversations. At that time, I was calling it positive thinking, but just the teaching of how powerful we are, that we are creative, and everybody's loved by God, by the divine, by divine intelligence, that everybody's connected. The things I was hearing was like, oh my God, I did not know there's a spiritual center, a church that actually speaks this, because normally what I knew back then was always this divide. Christianity is the only way, and being a Muslim or Jewish is, you know, people just have stuff going on. And that never sat well with me. Going to Hillside, it just made, well, first of all, I was shocked. Like, wow, I've always believed this. So I felt affirmed. So through going to the Sunday services, going every time, after a while I was bored, because I'm like, yeah, I know this. Then I started taking classes and took all the classes that could be taken. And then I was teaching with some other teachers. And then I wanted more. It's like, there's got to be more. And then someone told me, well, if you wanted to take other classes, it's ministerial school. I'm like, oh, like hell, I'm going to ministerial school. I ain't doing no ministerial school, because I had judgments about pastors and ministers. Long story short, I ended up applying, and he just opened my mind. And I got to see myself that as a communicator, that I am a communicator, I'm a teacher, I'm a healer. And that just opened a whole new world. And it's like talents and gift that I had that I wasn't aware of would just started to bloom. And you know, sometimes even when you ask me, what titles do you want to use? I'm like, oh, on my Facebook page, I have a lot of titles. And some of them I tried to take out. I tried to take one out one time, and someone gave me a call, called me about something completely different. And I felt like it was spirit checking me. Like, what are you doing taking that out? Sometimes I'm like, who needs all these titles? I don't need it, but it's a way of just letting people know what I do. So for me, trainings and workshops and retreats and classes that I've taken, it's just brought me to realize this is what I'm here to do. I've always been intuitive, and I didn't know it until in my 20s. At that point, I actually felt like it was something I needed to develop. Yes, we cultivate understanding the inner guidance. Now I'm writing my book, which you know of, my memoir. And as I think of stories of the past, I'm realizing that I've always been intuitive. I've always followed that nudge, even if I didn't know how. So for me, how does one become a spiritual healer without trying to sound elitist? I would say for me, this is what I came here to do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Love that. You know, this is your God-given talent.
It
and
is.
You, unlike many people, you actually know it and you're living it. And that's a beautiful thing. Too many of us go through life just getting by, doing what we need to do to pay the bills, to, you know, keep our head above water, and all those other cliches that we hear all the time. Before I go further, I just wanted to say some more mentions. Hey guys, if you are on the Facebook group, you need to have click on the StreamYard permissions. It's above the screen. It's above the video. So if you click on that, then I'll know who you are, because I'm seeing a bunch of wonderful people commenting, but I don't know who you are. So I'm so sorry. So someone said,
Michelle, they can type StreamYard.com/Facebook, right? And that's will pop up. They can do that too.
Yeah. So take a look at that, guys. Someone said hi, cuz. So I'm assuming it's my cousin, but it might not be. It might be yours, Ade. So someone else is at work and just taking a peek. Love that you're so lively, Michelle. Someone else said that I look lovely, so thank you so much. Ade said the same. I told him I got dressed up for him. Someone said, great clarification, Ade. So that's lovely. And someone else said, I have dreams that come true or give me insight. I feel like I need to develop it as well. Any tips on that? Would you like me to do that again? I have dreams that come true, give me insight. I feel like I need to develop it as well.
I'm not quite sure what the question is. If you have, because they're saying they have a dream that comes true or gives insight, I feel like I need to develop it. I don't know if they're trying to develop the dream, what they're getting, or being able to.
Sounds like the insight. Whoever wrote that, can you just give us a bit more info?
Yeah.
Say, oh, I wrote the dream. I wrote about the dreams, and maybe write your name in it, because I can't see your name, unfortunately. Sorry.
Yeah, and so it could actually be dream while they were sleeping, or they have a dream of something that they want to be. So that would be helpful.
Oh, my cousin Celia is on the line from Maryland. Celia, hi. Thank you for tuning in, darling. And Eva says it sounds extremely passionate about spiritual healing. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. But, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about you and about us and we as a people, because, you know, Ade, one of the things that's really wonderful is that you are from the motherland, right? You are from a world, a continent, a country where everything around you is Black and for the most part positive. You have lots of positive images of Black people. You have years and years and decades and decades of Black people doing good and bad, like any other country, but everyone around you is Black and positive. And so one of the things that you and I have talked about is, you know, the relationship between Black men and Black women. And so you've had a taste of it in Africa, in the UK, in America. And one of the things that I always love that you say is that, you know, there's nothing more beautiful to you than a Black woman. And, you know, I just love that. I just love that. All the Black women that are listening to love it too. So I thought it'd be lovely if we just had a little bit of a conversation about your vision of Black love. What does that look like? What does that sound like? Because before I let you go on, I just wanted to say to you that a lot of the sisters that are on the show, and, you know, please write some notes, make some comments. But I know many of us are very frustrated with our men. We're frustrated with the relationships or the lack of. We have a lot of frustrations around relationships with Black men and Black women. So I just wanted to throw that in. I'm sure I'll get some more comments after that. What's your vision of Black love? Please share.
So what I'll say, let me talk about vision first, briefly. When I talk about vision, I'm talking about something that we almost can't even see with our physical eyes. It's something beyond what is happening now. And so my vision, and the vision is not, it's not like it's, you have a vision because there's a statement, pain pushes until vision pulls. Pain pushes until vision pulls. In life, we go through moments or most of our lives feeling pushed by pain. But there comes a time when if we are willing to invest the time in ourselves, to surrender to a deeper vision. Earlier, you talked about sometimes some people may be doing work that they don't really enjoy. And because of how we've been programmed, we think, you know, parents tell us just get a good job, get paid, or whatever the case may be. And in society, we're not always told to listen to that inner guidance. In fact, if you say you listen to your inner guidance, people are looking like you, Cuckoo inner guidance. What the hell is that? It seems like it's better to have a group of people being sad and upset, depressed, and not knowing what's happening than somebody who's very clear about what they want out of life. So vision for Black love for me is what is possible when we spend time, when we take the time to work on ourselves, declutter our minds, do the work that is necessary, and be willing to interrogate our own belief system. So there's so many things that I've heard around relationship. I've worked with clients who are saying, well, there isn't a Black man that I can't find a Black man that matches me, or is not very spiritual, that, just all these stories that we hear in society that may not necessarily be real. But it's very important for us to ask ourselves, what are my beliefs?
That's right.
As a Black man, what do I believe about a Black woman?
Right.
As a Black woman, what do I believe about a Black man? Sometimes, and it's very easy to believe what society is saying just by default. We internalize the stereotype. We internalize the judgment. We internalize the conversations around them and us. In America, and it happens here. America's kind of vocal. I always say when there's a certain issue, and it see when UK is on 5 volume wise, America's on 15.
Right.
Blah, blah.
The conversation.
That's it. And when I think of Black love, particularly romantic relationships, and this can be applied to any. And unfortunately, you and I were talking about this. It pains me sometimes that when we talk about us, people from Africa, from West Indies, we have to keep saying Black this, Black men, Black woman. If you go on YouTube and Google yoga teachers, you see a lot of white women, white men. You may see a Black woman, a Black man. But if you really want to see a Black teacher, I've had to put Black yoga teacher for YouTube or Google to bring it up.
That's right.
So because we live in a country right now where the dominant culture right now is white. So things are just by default, if you will. There are other things, but we won't go into that. By default, it's geared towards whiteness. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just what it is. Right. So when we talk about relationship, we have to put the Black there. And, it really doesn't, to some extent, I don't really care if we later drop it in years to come, that we're no longer saying Black, whatever. It's fine. Because I believe when we talk about romantic relationship, it is important for the couples to create their own relationship, to create what's going to work for them. And we need to release the idea of how relationship used to be. We need to release ideas of what my mom and my dad had, especially those of us who had parents who stayed together for many years. We sometimes equate being together for 20, 30 years as a successful marriage. BS. You can be in a relationship for 1 year and it could be the most transformative experience you've ever had.
That's right.
Or you could be in one and you're depressed for maybe you've been in a relationship for 30 years, but half of that you're depressed. But because of conditioning, because you believe in, I'm too old, what my family are going to say, what my friends are going to say, there is no good woman out there, no good, I just better stick with this. And we may discover that husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, well, usually husband and wife, they're living in different bedrooms. But they introduce them as, look, they've been married for 50 years. That doesn't mean anything. It only means what they say it means. So for me, the vision that I have for Black love, for romantic relationship, is that we commit to doing our own spiritual work. For some people, that might mean therapy.
Right.
But we gotta devote ourselves to really clean up the mess. I call it a mess, and because in your mess is the message, right? Like we want to avoid the mess. We don't want to look at our shadow self. We don't want to look at what what we think is negative about us, but we must be able to look at that, whether you were abused, whether you were oppressed. Maybe you live in a country where white supremacy is the thing and you can't advance and you feel like the whole world is against you. Yes, that's true. And there's more. So for me, the vision is relationships where people are willing to be intimate, physically, emotionally, intellectually, psychologically, spiritually, that you can just be, I don't even want to say honest, tell your truth.
Be
Now,
vulnerable.
be vulnerable. Yes. Yeah.
Commit to spiritual work, Eva said, and it's so true. I mean, I have clients that come to me and it's literally like they have an accordion file of what they want their man to look like, or what he should be, or what he should have, or where he should work, and how much money. And when they drop that list and it starts falling, you're just like, okay, all right. And I often say, do you have the same list for yourself? Do you meet all that criteria on that list? Because I guarantee you that person that you're looking for probably doesn't exist.
Yes.
Probably doesn't exist. You're looking for Mr. Perfect. And when you find him, let me know.
And sometimes the list of things that we think will make us better. Right. Which that's fine. But what is it about you that you think the list you're making will make you be better? Let's address that. Because when we address that, there's I think it's on YouTube, or if they Google it, I think it's 36 questions. And you see this in programs. If two people who don't know each other spend 5-10 minutes together and they ask themselves questions that's beyond, so where do you see yourself in 10 years? Those are good questions, yeah. But ask, when was the last time you cried? What broke your heart?
Right.
What there's another channel on YouTube that I like called, it's just gone out of my head now, but one of the questions they ask, if there's like a blind date, one of the question is, what would your ex warn me about?
That's a good one.
Yes. But normally we don't want to go that deep when we meet somebody, because and it's fine. We bring our own beliefs to the table and we bring our representative that comes between a relationship. And I see myself being a millionaire with 2 kids, or whatever the case may be, whatever we think would impress the other. I'm generalizing. It's not that for everybody. But if we spend time asking deeper questions, and I think I'm going to try and Google it, 36 questions to ask a stranger. To ask a stranger. When we ask those kind of questions, and people get to share the time they cried, what broke their heart, when they, really intimate things that we can go into, something happens naturally where there is a connection. Right. When that connection happens, if you're heterosexual, it's easy to think, oh, we're supposed to be together. There's a chemistry. That's something else they didn't teach us. Just because you have a connection with a man or woman, or if you're same sex or the same sex person, it doesn't mean you're supposed to end up in bed. But sometimes we think that's what that means. Oh, I just feel connected to you. We think the same thought. Well, if everybody's thinking the same thought, one of you is not needed. What's the point? We need to have somebody who's going to push back. But when we connect with somebody, something else happens.
Yeah.
And if we're willing to explore the conversation, if we're willing to even ask, I have a connection to you. I find you attractive. Sometimes when I'm fantasizing, you're my fantasy. Or I see you as my friend, but I'm wanting us to, I feel like I want to go to the next level, but I'm not sure if you're there. Rather than talking in codes, those kind of things opens us up for a deeper connection. Go ahead. I feel like I've been saying a lot.
No, that's great. That's great. And, one of the things I always do when I get into a relationship, not that I'm in one now, so it doesn't apply.
Yeah, don't sound like you just hopping from one to another now.
Right? No, but one of the things I've always asked, even my current partner, what do you need in a relationship? And the person usually say, what do I need? I don't need anything. Really, you don't need anything? Because I do. Let me tell you what I need. And then I tell them. And then it's sort of like, yeah, I better go and do my homework because I hadn't thought about that. But it's a great question. What do you need in a relationship? Not do you want, we all want a lot of things.
Yes.
I can say a lot of things that I want. I may get them, I may not. But they're not the things that I need. You know, what are the non-negotiables? The three things that you can't live without, and then a few things that you really need. And everything else is up for compromise. Everything is up for grabs. We can work it out. But we got to talk through it, right? We've got to find out what ticks, what do we need, what will make us one if we really want that cohesive, loving relationship, a healthy relationship. Because that's kind of what we're talking about here. And one of the things you mentioned earlier that I thought was really great was that you said, you know, anything is possible. You just have to do the work. You've got to be willing to do the work. And so, Ade, talk about a little bit about what's the work? What kind of work are we talking about?
Before I answer that, I just posted the 36 questions that is called 36 questions that lead to love.
Okay.
And you know, you can meet a stranger, somebody that you probably wouldn't even pay attention to. You ask that question, you're going to naturally feel a connection because we're wired to connect with one another. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to post that in a minute. 36 questions that lead to love. Let me just post that. So I was asking you, what's the work that we have to do when you say, you know, anything's possible, we've got to do the work. So what kind of work are we talking about for those of us that may not be familiar with that term in this regard?
I'll say personal development, spiritual development, committing time, making time to know yourself, to understand who you are, to be able to challenge your own beliefs that, okay, you see yourself as getting a certain kind of job or living in a certain neighborhood, making a certain kind of money. Are those your thoughts? How are you developing your spiritual self? Are you spending time on a daily basis regularly to be with you? Can you be with yourself long enough to get in touch with things that scare you?
Yeah.
Are you willing to be with yourself, to just be quiet? Do you feel quiet with distractions because you don't like being alone? So with the spiritual work or personal development, even if it's a retreat, finding a teacher, finding a guru, finding a minister, getting a counselor, a therapist to help you ask questions that you don't even know you had until you hear it. Like, you know, you need somebody to help you bring it to the front. Learn about this is weird, this coming up. Look at when you were born, your astrological natal chart. Look at where you are in the family, in your siblings. Are you the only child? That affects how you show up in the world. Are you number 3? Are you the first? Are you the last? You know, what was your experience like growing up with your parents? Were you abused and you think, oh, I've gotten over it because, you know, I just don't deal with my family. They're too mean. They don't trust me. They don't believe me. And I can do better without them. Well, when you're trying to, like they say in America, nick somebody out of your life, that should tell you a lot. If you're trying to kick somebody out of your life and I don't want nothing to do with them, that should tell you some things. If you're triggered by what someone does, what they say, what they do, a culture, if you're finding yourself being triggered often by that thing, or you find yourself attracting the same kind of people, and you want to say all men are the same, all women are the same, well, you are the common denominator.
That's right.
So taking the time to just be, it's like, what do I want? The question, like, where do I see myself in 10, 20 years? What do I want people to say about me when I die? Am I living my legacy?
That's right.
What does money really mean to me? Is money the root of all evil? Is it really? What's my relationship to money? So that's kind of questions. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just thought about that, about, you know, the money, because a lot of us aspire to have money and to be wealthy, but do we ever ask the question why? You know, it starts off with the material items. Well, I need the car and I need the house and I need this and I need that. But do we ever think about, okay, and then once I have all that, what's next? Do I want just the next biggest car, the next more expensive house? That, you know, what is the goal? What will you? How will you feel when you have these things? What will it look like? And that's one of the questions, you know, as coaches, we ask people, you know, how does something feel that you think that you want to attain? What does that look like? You have to imagine it. You have to know it before you actually get it. Yeah. You have to have that connection to it already and really sit still and think about it, because a lot of people that are very wealthy are very miserable, are very unhappy. So, you know, the old expression.
Especially when we're trying to fill a void, right? When we're trying to fill a void with the material wealth. Like, if I have A, B, or C, it will make me feel this kind of way.
Exactly.
I will feel happy. I will feel worthy. I will feel like I'm valuable. Well, if we're trying to fill the void with a thing, even when the thing comes, yeah, maybe for a minute you feel worthy. And then you might be looking for something else. And worse, you have the material wealth and you still feel in the same thing. And that's a hard place to be, because then you might find it hard to tell your friends, like, okay, I got the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect whatever. I still feel empty. There is a void that is always inviting us to come back to it. And the only thing that can fit the void inside of us is us. It's like a puzzle piece. We are the right shape for the void. And are we doing the work to feel and see and imagine what that void is? What's the void? Do I feel like I'm not enough? Yeah, I do sometimes. I judge myself. What is that about? Well, we can always sometimes go back to childhood. We blame it on our parents. Poor parents, they get blamed for everything. Well, I remember my dad used to say to me, you talk too much. Oh, I remember my dad said, yeah, you don't think before you speak. So that wounding, when he said it, and I'm talking about a personal experience, when my father said, you don't think before you speak, I just assumed then that must be a bad thing. That must be wrong. So I spend like my teenage years and even up till my 20s overthinking, overanalyzing before I speak. So much so that when I'm working with people, coaching, counseling, sometimes rather than be direct, I go around being around the bush, not wanting to hurt feelings. And then they say, oh, so you mean I'm dealing with self-worth issues? And I'm like, yeah. Like, oh, but I have gone all around the corner, like, you know, it seems like you, and they're just like, you mean I'm dealing with, you're talking about self-worth? I'm like, that's it. How I was overcompensating for what I believe was wrong because of what my father said. I don't know why he said it, but I made that wrong. Was okay. So before I speak, I have to think and overthink to make sure it's the right thing to say, because I don't want it to land incorrectly. I don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right.
Then through my spiritual practice and just doing the work, I call it doing the work because that's what it is. Well, it's not work as in, oh, I'm doing the work. It's really the best gift we can give ourselves, to know yourself. I realized that, speaking about being intuitive, I've always been intuitive. What is it? Exposure here, whatever. That's not the way to phrase it. But before the show, I was like, oh my God, I just got off the call with my book coach and I'm talking to Michelle. I'm doing some things on this computer, moving over there. And I just said, okay, breathe. Michelle and I just breathe. And after the breathing, I was a little bit more settled. But what I know is whenever I set my intent to do a show, to work with someone, all the distractions dissolve. So I know that when I come on here, what wants to come, what wants to be expressed will come out.
That's right.
And so rather than overthink, well, should I say that? You ask me a question and I probably go, well, you know, maybe, but because now I have confidence in what I'm hearing, what I call a download. I can express it without overthinking, over analyzing. But that took some undoing. That took some forgiving. I needed to forgive myself for making myself wrong because of what I thought my father meant. And forgive my father for saying something that caused me pain. He, I can't really say he did anything wrong. He was sharing his experience. So it's about taking time to look at, how am I showing up in the world?
How am I? It's important. Important. So important. And what our parents say to us and what we take with us. I'll never forget when I was a child in school. This is, well, I find it funny, but people get horrified when I tell the story. But I remember we had an assignment. I think I was in primary school. So for those of you in the States, that's when you're sort of between 5 and 8, I think it is, or 8 and 11. 8 and 11, I think it is. Anyway, I was in primary school, and the teacher said, okay, your homework this week is to speak to your parents and find out what one thing do they always say to you that, you'll always remember. So I come to school, I go in class, and everyone's getting up. Oh, my parents say this, my parents say that. And I said, oh, my mum said if she could live a life again, no children. It's
just like, oh,
my little plaques, and I was very. My mum said if she could live a life again, no children, and everybody went silent. And then I just said, "Oh, she just meant the others, not me." And I would say that.
You haven't changed much.
Ego is always out of control. So, I was never funny. When my mom used to say it, I used to laugh at her, and I used to say, yeah, you just mean the other two, not me. You're not talking about me. I was meant to be here. And she'd go, no, especially you. You're the one that's the problem. I'm not a problem. And they say, like, I talk much, which I still do. And my mom used to say to me, you keep talking, someone's going to kidnap you and take you away. And I used to say, maybe I'll get a better house. That might not be so bad.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think you're the reason she said that. Your mouth.
Like I don't know what. I can't even insult the kid. She just lets it bounce off her like rubber bullets. But deep down, you later on do grow up thinking, oh God, do I talk too much? Oh, wonder. Oh. And then I just sort of embraced it. Yeah, I talk a lot. What can I do? It's one of my skills, and I just embraced it. And so I think. But like you said, there's a point where you have to sit still, and sometimes you question things and you second guess it. And just going back to Black love, is that something that we should be doing? Should we be thinking about, if I want to have a relationship with somebody, if there's a man that I admire, a woman I admire, that I want to have that dialogue with, is it okay for me to just sort of rock up and say, hey, can we have a drink, or these days, can we have a Zoom call? Right. Can we have a Zoom? Are you feeling in the Zoom mood? Let's have a Zoom tonight. Who's Zooming? Who? Okay, let me not get carried. Can I have a little Zoom call and maybe just have that conversation about, I'm interested in you, and I'm not sure if you're feeling the same way, but I just have some questions for you, because if I'm going to embark on this relationship, or if I want to get to know you better, there's some things that I want to sort of talk about from the forefront, from the beginning. What do you think about Ade? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think we're
of course You said what?
Pushing the boundaries?
I don't even know if that's pushing the boundaries, only to the fact that you're changing things up. There was this old school of thought where a woman is not supposed to ask a guy out. Who came up with that? And Right. Why is that so real? And why are we still doing that today? If then there's the other thing, if you get a text, wait a few hours before you respond because you don't want them to think you're thirsty. I get it. And I'm not even judging those way of being, but if we can do those things, like, okay, as a woman, I'm not going to ask a guy out, but you're aware of what you're doing. And then maybe even ask yourself, well, why not? Why should I tell this guy that I like him? It seems like women have a lot of rules about being in a relationship, and we men, we just like go out there. And I think that starts from childhood. Parents will protect the girls.
That's right. Absolutely.
But the boys will like, go out there and sow your oats. How are they going to do that? If you're protecting the girls and you send them out there, basically you're feeding your daughters to the wolf. You're not educating them. You're not talking to them. So there's some of those ideas that we're brought with us that's inside of us, part of our DNA, because we marinated in it, of maybe regrets that our parents had, the mother, the thoughts and beliefs that the mother had about a relationship. Maybe a mother got pregnant when she wasn't trying to, and she may be holding the thought of feeling guilty and saying, I'll never do that again, or maybe she's beating herself up. If you're in your mother's womb when that was happening, you're marinating all of that. So you're born with that in you, thinking something you're never going to do and don't even know where the belief came from because you married, but not knowing you marinated in it. But I feel like if we take time to push the barrier, step out of our own comfort zone, we will discover something about ourselves. Now, it's different with male and female. Once again, you know, men are sometimes presented as all they want is one thing. And the woman is the one that's the precious one, and she's got to be careful who she bees with, who she says yes to or sleeps with or go. There's all these rules that women have to go through. So there's a disconnect. We're just looking for the ass. Ooh, check that ass out. That's it. We're good. But not all men are like that. So when it comes to asking a guy out, why not? Why not? Why not ask somebody out and without having the end result as if, well, if I ask him out and he says yes, then that means I could be in a relationship. You can actually just want to explore things with him to just kind of see, you know, see what comes up for you and see what kind of guy he is, and not having to make a judgment as in, oh God, another whatever. But the more open we're willing to be, the more we give ourselves space to attract different kind of people into our lives, because life is really about experiences. And I want to say this because I was talking about doing the work, and it made me think of the statement when people say, nobody's ever going to love you until you learn to love yourself. That's BS.
Don't think so?
It's BS.
Tell us why.
So, getting into a relationship, first of all, we must be willing to embrace what I call matured love. Not this sort of frivolous love, like, well, I think he loves me. Oh my God, I don't know if he loves me. Or my girl told me she loves me. No. That kind of dies out. But a sort of love that would how would I say this? That you know you can count on even when you're betrayed. The love you can count on when your heart is broken. The love you can count on when you find yourself being jealous. The love you can count on when you're saying, it's funny how this whole thing about relationship is in my head is more from a woman perspective. I have a lot of female clients. I have a lot of female friends. Man, we're just different. But anyway, and I don't even say that different as in there's something wrong. But do I have enough love for myself that even while I'm jealous of what this guy is doing, that I can find my way back home to myself? Nobody can love you until you learn to love yourself. If you start with mature love, you're open to the possibility of something more. Because love, matured love is unconditional love. So I'm going to try and say from a man's perspective, if I get into a relationship and I'm going into the relationship, I'm doing my spiritual work, I understand that some of the things that piss me off, that annoy me in my stuff, there's some trauma that I had from childhood that I really need to deal with. When I get into a relationship, I'm going into it knowing that, first of all, there's some things, some trauma, some experiences that I cannot access unless I'm in a romantic relationship. So I'm going into it knowing that some stuff is going to come up. And if I'm willing to not betray myself, and I'm with somebody who is also investing time in themselves, together we can love ourselves out of our mess.
Interesting.
However, if I don't love myself and I convince myself that I will never find anybody to love me, because I don't love myself,
Mm.
even if the love is injected in me, I won't even know it. Because my belief, everything starts with thought. I believe that I can never be loved. And most of us don't always feel like, we always say, oh yeah, I can love myself more. I can do more in loving myself. But if we go into a relationship that there are many levels, loving yourself is not as important. When do we, when, I don't know anybody saying, you know, I had this experience last year and I knew that I loved myself and that was it. I was there. I reached the goal. It is an everyday thing. You can be loved even while you're learning to love yourself.
Like
But
that.
the idea of you never be loved until you learn to love yourself, if you're the only one on the planet, how would you know if you love yourself or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
We are meant to come together to reflect to one another places where we can grow, places where we're shining. So we're literally a gift unto one another. And how do we really know love until we're expressing it and sharing it with another? So what is more important for me, more important is, are you open to learning love, learning about love, learning to love another in a new way? Because romantic relationship, parenting is the highest form of spiritual practice. And then right underneath that, that's kind of side by side, is romantic relationship. And what will get us through is the matured love.
It is. It is.
Without that, it's going to crumble.
And it really is, because, you know, when you're dating, you can fob things off and not really deal with them. But once you're in a committed relationship, whether that's marriage or living together, and somebody comes with their stuff and their stuff is difficult, hard to swallow, maybe not what you signed up for, definitely not what you had in mind, but here it is. It's presented itself. What do? Do you run? Because I know many friends would say, oh, if that situation happened to me, I'd be gone. But the reality is, well, if you ran every time something deep happened, then you'll never be in a relationship, number one. But number two, let's just turn the tables a little bit. What if the situation that your other half brought to the table was now your problem, your situation? And if they said, oh, that's your shit, I don't want to deal with that, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm out. So, you know, we have to really dig deep when we're talking about having relationships and loving each other, and being in a loving, healthy, committed relationship means dealing with shit we don't really want to deal with. Talking about stuff we didn't really want to have a conversation about, hearing and learning things that you just like, when did that happen? Why didn't I know that before? Because sometimes we're not ready to tell that part of the story. We tell as much as we can can accept, that the person's ready to hear. Sometimes we hear things, we're not listening. You know, we're not really getting deep and understanding. Oh my God, what did this person just tell me? Wait a minute. I'm going to fall off my chair.
Yes.
And that happens. You fall off the chair and you walk around and, what did I get myself into? Oh my God. But then when you calm down and you think about the love that you have for this person, the love that they've given you, the love that you've experienced, if you're in a really deep, committed, loving space, then you know that it's a work in progress all the time.
All the time.
All the time. It doesn't ever really end. When you have those great euphoric times, oh, the relationship's great, it's amazing, and you're on your high horse and you're like, da, 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 da. And then maybe 6 months down the road, something happens. Oh shit, here we go again. Oh, it is. It's life.
Yeah.
It's up, it's down.
Every day you breathe in, you breathe out. You eat and you release. It's always that. And, you know, I don't know if anybody would think, you know, this is what we're talking about is, well, let me say this. What I'm talking about, what we're talking about, is not how to avoid pain.
No, not at all.
To avoid challenges. You're going to feel some kind of pain. I mean, sometimes in a disagreement, your partner, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife could say something to you that makes you go, well, depends on consciousness, where you are in consciousness, your mindset, to say, you know what? right now, what you just said cuts so deep.
Mm.
I just need to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to be alone. Of course, that those kind of conversation may not happen at the beginning, but it's important to start revealing what is important to one another at the early stages. Then when you get to a point where you get hit in the face with something that you see coming, rather than say, I can't believe you said that to me. And even if you do that, there's always another way out. But there's another option is to say, if I say something right now, I just not going to say something I'm going to regret. And I love you too much. I love our relationship. I think I'm going to go for a walk. I think I'm going to go take a nap. I just need to be alone. I need to go drink, or I need to go whatever. However, once we take that break, it is important to come back and address the conversation.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, it just piles up, it piles up, it piles up. And then one day there's a and relationship is work. Personal development, spiritual development is work. That's what we're here to do. One of the things I like to say about how I see when people fall in love, oftentimes when we grow up, now 30s, 40s, 50s, falling in love is for teenagers. And what I believe is actually happening, we get a glimpse of what it's like to be loved without judgment.
So important.
When you bring up, that's first few days, months, weeks, I don't know, where things are just like, oh my God, there's something about the way she speaks that just melts my heart. Or, he came to pick me up at work today and then looked at me with a smile. I thought the sun was just beaming on me. In that moment, we're having an opportunity to see what it's like to be accepted just as we are.
That's right.
That's going to wear out because we have a natural tendency to push, to expand, to grow. And more importantly, whatever we have hiding would have to come out, especially with all that light of love. Like you're in the company of somebody who loves you, loves your dirty drawers, like they say in America, just anything. In the first few months, anything, baby, just, oh my God, I love you. Then you get so comfortable. One day, you're taking your drawers, panties, underwear, you're taking it off as soon as you're coming into the house. And like, what the are you doing? I thought you didn't have any problem with that.
Not so sexy now.
Right? And when those experiences show up, it is really an opportunity to grow. It is an opportunity to take the relationship to the next level. And we're going to have to challenge our own perspective. We got to be able to shift. If we're not doing the work, I don't want to keep saying doing the work like that. If we're not doing the work of awareness, becoming aware.
Awareness.
I like how that feels. Doing the awareness work. We're going to be reactive rather than respond.
That's right.
Now, I want to say this, and we have to say this, the whole thing when we say Black love. Why, you see a lot of that now, Black love, I love Black love, because those of us who live in the diaspora will live in a society where we've been made to feel less than, we don't belong. The Black man, the narrative, they're criminals, they're lazy, they want to rob you. And the woman is lazy. She just wants to have sex and have children and live on food stamp in America and over here collect benefits. Or basically we're second-class citizens. So we end up fighting that as well as fighting to be in a relationship. And whatever narrative is out there about any human being, whether it's about race, whether it's about gender, we hear it long enough, we internalize it. There are gay people who are homophobic.
That's right. That's true.
I remember when I first read an article, I'm like, how is that even possible? But then I realized, oh yeah, well, they're human. They are part of the society. They're part of the matrix. So they've lived in a Christian family. and their parents have said things about gay people that they took on board. They've internalized it.
Yes.
So they become homophobic to other gay people and themselves.
Yeah.
So much so they couldn't come out because their own judgment that was implanted in their mindset and their consciousness is now attacking them.
Yes.
So this work of awareness is, are you willing to just dismantle your own belief system for your own safety, for your own liberation? And are we Black people willing to say, you know, I have some beliefs about Black men as a woman, and as a man, I have beliefs about Black women, and I don't know if those are my beliefs. Part of it's just based on what I've heard. Part of it's what I've seen on social media. I'm willing to confront that. I don't have any patience for conversations like, well, the reason I don't like Black men is blah, blah, blah. Or the thing about Black, I don't have any patience for it. I really don't. Sometimes I wish I do, that I can sit down long enough to listen. The minute it's categorized like that, I'm like, that's BS. Yeah. That's BS. Yeah. And the thing about this Blackness in UK, in America, well, listen, it's the Blackness in America is slightly different from Blackness in UK. Here, when we say Black people, what are we talking about? So we're talking about Black people from Jamaica, from Trinidad and Tobago, from Ghana, from South Africa, from Zambia, from different parts of the world, but we categorize ourselves under this one label, Black, but we all have different cultures, different traditions, different way of being. There are people living inside of Nigeria, can't even stand one another. In Nigeria, there's 3 main languages. There's Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. There are 1 or 2 words that I know when it comes to the Igbo language. The Hausa, 1 or 2 words that I know, but other words I don't understand. The other any other conversation in that, and they go, yeah, you might as well be speaking Spanish. However, when those Black people that speak different languages come to a country like UK, they become Black, and we assume they see the world the same way. So we're not only fighting our own struggle of being with one another, we're fighting the stories and narrative of what society said about us and our need to have a unifying front when we don't really know or understand each other's culture. It pisses me off sometimes when we have to say, if I have to Google a yoga teacher or a spiritual teacher and I have to say Black this, African that. But it is what it is. So all of those things I believe we have to confront in order to create a relationship that works for us. Yeah. And when I say us, not even us as Black people, but individually. Like me being in a relationship with my woman, asking her a question, really challenging what we believe, what we're bringing together to the table. Because we're bringing other people's belief system and our own, there's erroneous belief system that we have to challenge and create a relationship, a unit that works for us. It could mean living together, never get married.
That's right.
It could mean no having children. It could mean, you know, you got 4 children, I got 5 children, and if we get married, then we're going to incorporate all these children. We're going to have a big family, and my parents, I'm the only child, and they feel funny about big family, but we believe in us.
With a blended family now, it's part of our future. This is the way we look at the world. It's not the way it was before. Mm-hmm. And it's all challenging. And that's the thing. You've got to sort of deconstruct the narrative. You know, you come into a relationship, you meet someone, you get to know them, and it's all fun and cute in the beginning. But then you've got to start asking the tough questions. You've got to start getting a little deeper. And, you know, if you don't like the answer, it's really important to ask questions around the answer that you're hearing, because maybe you don't like it because it means one thing to you. But when you ask the person to explain it, maybe that's not even where they were coming from. It's just how you heard it. Yes. You heard it the way that it's been. As I said, it's a narrative you've heard all along. So you've just fed into that, believe that's what that meant, and you're just running with it. And then the person questions it, and then you're saying, well, you meant this by this, didn't you? And then they're saying, no, where did you get that from? And all of a sudden, you're having a dialogue about something that you didn't even know there should have been a dialogue about.
Right.
This is the way it is. That's the way it's been. Who can tell me any different? So it's really important, especially for us. And like you said, we have so many external forces I don't want to say necessarily against us, but that's how it feels. It feels like we have a lot of external forces against us.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we're constantly sort of keep our head above the water. You know, it's like an iceberg. You're above water and you're looking around, you can see all this great stuff, but what's going on below is a whole different story.
A whole different story. Yeah. And I want to say
So
something I said earlier about just because you have a connection to somebody doesn't necessarily mean then you're supposed to end up in bed with them. There's also this, I don't want to say a new way of thinking, but we're evolving as a human species. We're growing, we're expanding, we're seeing life differently. We see it in who we call the millennials, that how they're living their lives. Now, they're not separate from us. They are who they are because of how we've lived, the work that we're doing, the work of awareness that we're doing. So we're giving birth to children who are a little bit more clearer than we were. And we've been paving the way. Now, if there's an attraction, I strongly believe this, that people need to be honest enough to say, you know what? I don't want a relationship. I just want to kick it. I want a booty call. You know, I want to be able to call you every now and then and say, this is what I want.
Right, that's right.
Because there's something in that in telling the truth, what really works for you, that's liberating. And in that liberation, there's some clarity. You can have the conversation about boundary. You're not just going to come over my house whenever you feel like it. If you call, I'm going to see if I'm in the mood.
That's right.
We need to talk about our sexual energies. We need to talk about what pleasure means, self-pleasuring. It's not just when you meet somebody. I mean, especially the women who may be in a relationship or maybe dating, and then it looks like things are moving too fast. And I've read articles, documentaries about women saying they decided to have sex with a guy because he wanted to. It's like, I get it, but we need to be having the conversation up front, saying, no, it's not going to happen. Or even if it's not with the guy, we can have the conversation. We women can have the conversation, like maybe if it's a book club, whatever kind of club, and not the sister girl, like, what would you do in situations like this? So people can share their own experience. So it's sort of rehearsed, if you will. There's a sort of internal weightlifting of a new way of being. So when the situation happens, it's not like, oh my God, what do I do now? We have so demonized sex and sexuality that it gets in the way that sometimes we can't even meet one another.
Yeah.
Those are the conversations we need to be having. Like the thing I posted, the 36 questions that leads to love. When was the last time you masturbated? Right. Somebody might say, what kind of question is that? A question you need to answer. We're going to have a relationship? Because in the relationship, that might be something you want to pleasure one another. You may want to watch each other pleasure yourselves.
No, absolutely.
Why do we wait to have those important conversations? You know, have you ever had STD before? How did you? Those conversations need to be. We need to have it up front. It doesn't mean the first day,
right?
But once again, this work of awareness gives us access to having the uncomfortable conversations,
and having the uncomfortable become comfortable.
Exactly.
You know, it's not that this. I mean, the first question might be a bit, that's a bit weird, or I feel a bit awkward. But as you start having those conversations, then the other person might think, oh, well, actually, I wanted to ask her this. So now that she asked me this, maybe I can ask her that. And then the dialogue, it's almost like a game of tennis. You're bouncing it back and forth and back and forth on your questions. You know, I am very proud of when I was single. I had what I called my plumber lover. Yes, he used to unblock the pipes. I'm not ashamed. I'm empowered by it.
You know, I'm like, plumber. Oh, okay. I'll block the pipe. Hey.
Right, you know, and it was a purpose. And, you know, we had the conversation. This is what it's about. And exactly what you said. You know what? Tonight's not working for me. It might be working for you, but it's not working for me in terms of coming over or whatever. You know, that booty call conversation. It was all part of making it work for me.
Yes.
You know, I was controlling what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, if I wanted to do it. And if I didn't, then I didn't. You know, but a lot of women are really comfortable with that because they They feel like, you know, I want to have this relationship, but what if I fall in love? But what, you know, what if I'm vulnerable? What if, and yeah, that happens, but you have to be able to know that if you're going to embark on a relationship in that way, then the guy may just want only that, or the woman may just want only that, and you've got to be prepared. So it's not for everyone. But I was very good at, you know, but this isn't really about me today. So anyway, this is really great. Guys, if you have any more questions,
there's a question here that I want us to address, actually.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dion's question. I like that.
And it's funny because, well, what's funny, not the question, but you said you've been doing your podcast, right? For like 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And you said, Ade, we're just going to go for an hour. Look at where it goes. I'm like, and there's so many things that I want to say because I feel like, oh, I could say that, but anyway. So Dion said, what do you think about long distance relationships? Do they work? So this may sound funny, well, cheeky, but I don't know. Do they work? They work for some people. But it's like, if we go into it, because, you know, first of all, when you have a connection to somebody, in that moment, there's like, oh my God, they're in another town, in another city, in another state, in another country. Yeah. So, you know, there's always going to be some kind of barrier. I've been in a relationship where that was an issue. And for me, I've always been like, we can make it work. I was even willing to move. I was willing to move from where I was to move because I just believe in what was happening, what we were creating. For some people, it works. For some people, it doesn't. And, you know, some people might say long distance relationship is a lot harder. Maybe. For some people, it might be. For some people, the freedom to be able to travel to the country or travel to wherever they're another town or whatever, and then come back to their own space could actually help the relationship because they have time to process, to think about, you know, they had a conversation when they went to the restaurant, or maybe the way he looked at a woman and she got jealous. She has time to kind of play that out. And then maybe one day pick up the phone. It's like, you know, there's something I've been thinking about. When we went to that restaurant, oh yeah, I remember that restaurant. The waiter came and the way you were looking at her and you made a joke, I laughed. But now that I'm thinking about it, it just feels like that's something I want to find out more. And sometimes when you're in the same place with somebody, there's so much happening.
Right.
It's happening so fast that you don't have time to process. So I believe long distance relationship can work if you're willing to make it work. And every relationship always works, whether it's 1 month, 2 years, 10 years. People say, oh, it didn't work out. It always works out because you will get everything you need to get from that relationship. Whether you withhold or you open yourself up, you're going to get exactly what you need out of that relationship. The question is, what do you want to leave with if you happen to leave a relationship? Are you going to leave judging the person? All men are the same, all women are the same, whatever the case may be. Or are you going to think of what happened that you want, that you're definitely not going to allow to happen again? And what did I learn about myself? What did I learn about relationship? What were the lessons? What were the blessings? Those are the things that make relationship work.
Yeah.
It could work. It just depends on the people. And people just need to be honest. It's not easy. I'm not giving this impression that, you know, if you can do the awareness work, sometimes doing the awareness work is what makes relationship challenging. Because you're thinking, there's just that one thing that I'm aware of that just rubs me the wrong way, and I can't find it in me to just let it go.
Right.
That could be hint to let it go, or that could be a hint to hold on. And if people are trying to be serious, I suggest some kind of coaching, counseling, get a therapist. We try and do it individually. We bring up too much. We bring too many stories. We need another perspective. All right, I'm gonna stop, Michelle. You know,
it's okay.
I get on this.
And you know, Dion, about the long distance thing. You know, my current relationship was a long distance relationship, and I've had many long distance relationships. But my thing has always been, at some point, someone will probably have to move if you want to live in the same place. So it's about thinking, you know, if I embark on this relationship, oh, he could move here, but would I be willing to move there? Got to think about both sides of it. So,
Yes.
you
And it's
know,
being honest with yourself in a way that is heart-centered. Am I
heart-centered.
willing to take the risk? Not just I'm honest. Well, I can't move to another country. I can't move to another state. Oh no, I ain't doing that. That's really not an answer. That's just ego running its mouth. Am I willing to leave where I'm at and move to another state, another country, another town, another continent? Am I willing? And what would I do? Do I think I can survive? It's going to be hard. We don't really know, but when you ask the question, you're sort of priming your mind and spirit, God, whoever, whatever you believe, Allah, Buddha, I don't care, it doesn't matter. You open yourself up to receive the kind of answers that can help you come to your conclusion. Asking the questions open you up. So it may be just when you're in a shower and you're like, you know what? If I move to France, I would never be able to have my favorite food from the restaurant around the corner. Nah, I'm not moving. I love this food too much. You know, it could be just that simple. But relationship is designed to break us open, so that the light, the truth, the essence, our soul can shine through. And it's a process, it's a journey. You're going to keep trying it. One of the things I've done as part of my growth, my awareness work is past relationships. I've had to ask questions about the things that I did and ask forgiveness. The things that I didn't even know. You know, I'm going to try and say this in a neutral way because I'm talking about somebody else. But in a relationship, there was a miscarriage. And at that time, there were times, it happened a couple of times. At the beginning, I didn't think I was old enough, mature enough, responsible enough to be a father. I wouldn't say that I was excited when the miscarriage happened, but there was a part of me that was relieved because I was like, oh my God, I don't think I'm ready. But to watch her go through what she was going through, one, it was painful. And also I didn't have the information. I didn't even know what to do. I did my best. Later on, years later, I was having to say, what was that like for her to have a miscarriage a couple of times? And we were able to have the conversation. Now, some people, you can't go back to them as that conversation because they don't want to have the conversation. She was willing to have that conversation with me.
Right.
And we both benefited from it. And it changed me. There's some uncomfortable conversations sometimes you may need to go back and have. But, you know, the vision for Black love as Black people, my vision is one of the other vision that I have is that we learn to relate with one another, not opposed to how society sees us, but what we believe in our heart, what we need. That we don't have to prove that Black relationship can work. That's right. Of course it can. We don't have to prove that we whatever. If we move to a different neighborhood, we're not doing it because we're trying to move from our people or whatever the case may be, that what we're doing is self-generated. That we are living from a place of vision. And the vision is for our children, or whether you have children or not, that this vision is a vision of expansion, is a vision of humanity, that through our love, our relationship, other people's life will be inspired because of how we relate with one another, how we communicate, rather than just putting on, oh, you know, she loves me, I love her. Oh, I just love her so much. No. When people see you have a disagreement in public, it's how you talk to yourself. That's what people want to see. So for me, I just hope, and not just in a romantic relationship with Black people, that it's time to not live based on the standards of white supremacy. Like, people are going to believe whatever they want to believe about That's Black people. Some people are just going to die with their beliefs. Some people are willing to change. Some people are challenging themselves. But we have to start living for ourselves. And whenever we find ourselves saying, you know how men are, you know how women, we need to just stop right there. Because we're adding to the BS.
Yeah, I can be guilty of that. Absolutely. Well, you know, Ade, I'm just loving that vision. And I think that's really, really so important if we look at it as a vision of what we would like to see our future, what we want it to be, what we want to hold as our, I don't know, our the way we want to honor Black love is all about what we do, how we see it, how we
Yes.
speak about it, and how we work towards it.
Yeah. Does my
Well,
love celebrate matured love? Does
yeah,
my love reflect the love of God, the love of the divine? Does my love, my relationship, let's just drop that. Does my relationship relates to how I see God relating to me? And if you don't believe in God, how life supports me to grow and develop. So
yeah,
when we have a higher vision, we naturally step up.
that's right. And there's my love and inspiration for others around
Mhm,
me to say, I want some of that. I want to do some of that. Can you show me? Can you
mm,
share and teach? Reach out and teach other people what makes your relationship work. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean it's great. It's just what you work at, you know, the progress of making
mm.
it better every day. That's so beautiful, Ade. And so, you know, we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. I love it. I love it. But I want to ask you my favorite question of the night. My
Oh,
favorite question of the night is Eleanor Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And so, how would you relate to that question? What is, yeah, my favorite
oh, first
question.
of all, well, yeah, well, I, all kind of things that just float down up like. So comparison, yes, I get it. I get it in that context when I compare myself to another, when I compare myself to another Black man, to another spiritual teacher, to another coach, and I'm doing that. You know, I could compare myself with to somebody else and make myself less than. I can
Mm,
compare myself to another and say, I'm not doing bad. I'm
mm,
actually on the level. However,
mm,
the ultimate for me is to get to a place where I can look at somebody else doing what I'm doing and go, damn, I love what they're doing. And that happens when I know that I am enough. When I
mm,
know that I am enough, when I know that the work that I do is being done through me and I'm showing up, that's all that matters. So really this comparison becomes, I mean, you can just like, you get to compare, do I want apple or orange? I'm gonna go for that. As opposed to, oh, this I like apple. I like the way it looks, but this orange looks horrible. Oh, this apple looks better. So this kind of comparison, I can see can steal our joy. Joy
mm,
is natural. Nobody, it's in you. You generate it. When you're living from a place of joy, you your eyesight, your vision will be so flooded with beauty that when you see another, rather than compare, you're just like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. Oh, I love what you're wearing. So it's about, for me, I would say we need to access our own joy, cultivate it so that we
mm.
can celebrate another.
I love that.
And the more Black women do that, the more Black women can stop talking about, Black women, I don't know. I don't have women as friends. They're just too catty. Let that go. Let that go. We're in this together. We're in this together.
This together. That's so beautiful. And Ade, I'd love you to just impart one thing with the audience that you think is important during this very challenging time that we're living in. You know, as I started the show with the fact that we are in December, I cannot believe it. And we're also coming to the end of the show and also the end of this series. Not the
Right.
entire series.
At the end of the podcast. What do you mean? It's the end of the season, not the end of the podcast.
Oh, what one thing would you like to impart with the audience tonight? Maybe about the vision of Black love, maybe about this time that we're living in. Anything that you think would be really helpful would be lovely.
So if we were looking at a woman giving birth,
Mm-hmm.
like we're looking through a window, but we didn't know she was giving birth.
Okay. Imagine
You
that.
just you look, you're just like, oh, and she's screaming and people are around her. Chances are we're gonna think she's dying, like something is wrong.
Mm,
When we find out she's giving birth, we go, oh, that makes sense. We are giving birth. We are evolving to a new age. It is painful. It is messy. It is difficult. It is challenging. It is
mm,
heartbreaking. But I want you to know that there is metaphorically a child being born, a vision of a new, I want to say, of a new earth. See, what we're going through is an answered prayer. The old system is crumbling. And yes, we can blame it on COVID-19, but naturally, some people are going to transcend into the spiritual realm. They're going to die, they're going to pass. It's hard for us to deal with. However, with every death comes a rebirth. We're not here to be here forever. We're constantly birthing a new idea of ourselves. So as we go through this messy, messy, messy time, I invite people to take a breath and maybe
mm,
just ask every day, what's the lesson in that I can get from what's happening? Because it's messy. In the mess, there's a message.
mm,
When you can take a moment to be still and catch the message,
mm,
it just might help you hold on. It might just give you a little bit of hope. And then you can pass the message on. I always say you got to embrace your mess in order to have the message. When you have the message, you become the messenger of truth. And the thing is, I want people to understand that there is something, there is a creative genius, creative power inside of you that can change how you relate to circumstances around you. That the ultimate power is within you. No matter how horrible it is, there is an ultimate power within you. And Michelle, if you don't mind, I want to read something because I read this the other day on my show and it just came to me.
okay.
What? I
I
just
wasn't sure
think
what you were going to do. What is he going to do? What is he going to say?
it
What
was
did I
going to
say
pull
wrong?
out. um, every time I read this on my shows, I want people saying I might get emotional. And I think this is what I want people to know. I've went around and around and it led me here. So when I talk about matured love, I want people to think about what I'm saying as matured love. So this is something written by a gentleman, is a spiritual teacher many, many, many years ago. He's made his transition now, Emmett Fox, Emmet Fox. And this is what he said about love. It just always breaks me down. There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer, no disease that enough love will not heal, no door that enough love will not open, no gulf that enough love will not bridge, no wall that enough love will not throw down, no sin that enough love will not redeem. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. If only you could love enough, you would be the happiest and most powerful being in the world.
That's beautiful. It all comes back to love. It really does. Take a breath. Take a breath. It really comes back to love. And, oftentimes when we're challenged, when we're stressed, if we reach out and the right people around and they bring us in with love, if you're in a relationship and you're struggling and you work through that relationship with the love, it doesn't always work out, but, the love will set you free. God will set you free. Ade, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting a few great messages here. Yes, this is always a message, a gem in the mayhem we may experience. And someone else said, "Love it, Ade." Thank you for that quote. Dion said it was powerful, and it really was. It really was. It's such a wonderful thing. What I'll do is I'll post it in the group afterwards, guys, so you can find it. Egil said, "Amazing words, amazing words." Thanks, Egil. You know, something for us all to think about tonight, right? Something for us all to walk away with some love in our hearts and our thoughts.
To love is risky. To love is risky, but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Worth it.
Yes. Oh my goodness, more comments. Love really is the answer, Claudia said. Thank you for that reading. Dion said, this has been absolutely fabulous. McLeod said, thank you, that was beautiful. Maureen, I'm not sure what you said, I just see your name, but thank you.
She may have said something earlier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who didn't do the permission thing. Yeah.
Sure if it was that one. I don't know. Any more comments, guys, as we wrap up? Wonderful, wonderful time. But it's so wonderful to have a Black man come on, open up, be honest, be sharing, be vulnerable. It's always a beautiful thing.
Thank you, Michelle.
My heart to yours. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for connecting people and do it joyfully. I mean, I love that joy of connection. You do it so well. I'm still finding my way back in UK after 2 years. I'm like, let me ask Michelle, who do I do here? Anything, business, I'm calling Michelle. And you just have a way of connecting people. Yeah. And just thank you. Thank you for the space for me to share. I appreciate it. I love doing my show, but right up there is being interviewed. And yeah, I just, invite people, if you want to do the work, this work of awareness, check me out on my website, send me a message on social media, lifecoachade.com. Love is the answer. Love is messy. It's risky, but that's your purpose. That's why we're here. If you're wondering what your purpose is, you're here to love in ways that blow your mind away.
And then you would never have imagined, huh? Yeah. More comments. Dion said, don't go. Claudia said, thank you for this evening, Michelle and Ade night. Eva said, it's wonderful. Maureen said, brilliant session. Thank you both. Thank you, Maureen, for writing your name at the end. And Eva wants to know, when is the next show? Well, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, Eva. I wanted to just give Ade a heartfelt thank you so much. Thank you for rounding off the show in a beautiful way. And yeah, look forward to maybe having you back on next season. Series 2. Thank you, Ade. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, listeners. Thank you for sharing. And I just say, take what you got today and apply it. Take the aha moments, the new perspective, and put it in action. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure I'm not supposed to give kisses to my guests, but hey, it's my show. I can do what I want to do. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the following people, all my guests from Series 1, Jacqueline Belgrave, Mark Wilson, Meredith McCormack Leon, Ladan Sheikh, Denise Harris, Gwen Cover, Sakina Garcia, Deborah, Kat, Ade. I mean, the names go on. And guys, if you know anyone who'd love to be a guest on the show, please bring it on, because next season, which starts in probably the second week of January, of course, I'll be posting, but it starts the second week of January. Please check it out. We're going to be really focused on relationships. I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to get really deep on the relationship tip. We're going to be looking at different relationships, daughters with fathers, fathers with sons, love relationships, you name it, we're going to talk about it, we're going to tackle it. So many thanks to everyone. Thank you to Ade for producing the show for me. Thank you to my business strategist, Eva, thank you for making this happen. And guys, do you know anyone that would be interested in being coached and learning more about love? You know where to reach them. You know where to reach me, I should say. You can reach me on my Calendly, as I have here, calendly.com, Joy Spot Discovery, and I'll put it in the chat. And also, you can just reach me on my website, which is joyspot.co.uk. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been almost an hour and a half. This has been a marathon, but it's been fabulous. And I just want to leave you with 3 things. Be joyful, be connected, and shine your light. See you in January 2021. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you.